Hey guys, it's another edition of Morrow Teaches Online. Yes, it's your host, Mr. Morrow. Congrats, we are done with the algebra curriculum. So now it's time to teach you a little extra. The interesting thing is, Chapter 10, all these lessons were once part of the algebra curriculum, but then once when Common Core got started, they were all moved to different classes, whether it was geometry or algebra 2. So now we're going to teach you all the ones that we used to teach but no longer, so at least you have a head start. So here we go. First one we're doing is how do we solve radical equations? This lesson is not too bad at all. So here we go. Squaring each side of an equation. If two expressions are equal, then their squares are also equal. I know you think that's pretty self-explanatory, but some people have trouble with that concept. So we just need to remember what is the opposite of square rooting? Yes, it's to square, so let's do number one. If it says the square root of x equals 6, well, you got to get x alone, so just square both sides. And when you do that, x equals 36. I know that was really, really, really difficult. Now, it does say check your solutions. I mean, I think this is kind of silly. I don't know if I'm going to do a check for all of them. But you need to prove, is the square root of 36 6? Yes, it is. Hooray. That was really tough. Now, here's the rule. You should not square both sides until the only thing that's left is the radical. So like for number 2, just even ask yourself, what sounds easier to do? Square both sides or subtract a 5? Subtract a 5. Okay, so subtract 5 first. Square root of x is equal to 8. Now that there's nothing else we can do but to square, now we square. So you square it, and you get x equals 64. And there's your answer. And then for the check, all you have to do for the check is the square root of 64 plus 5, does that actually equal 13? Well, you get 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. Does 13 equal 13? Yes, it does. I mean, if it tells you to check, you kind of have to check. Now, for number 3, do you see how it says 3 minus radical x? Do you think I like negative radicals? No. So instead of subtracting the 3, why don't I just add the radical x? I'll add the radical x to both sides. And now it says 3 equals radical x, positive radical x. So that made life a lot easier. Square both sides. And x is equal to 9. And let's do one more check, and then I'll just pick a few to do the check for. Otherwise, I think the check is kind of self-explanatory. 3 minus radical 9, does that actually equal 0? Well, the square root of 9 is 3. Is 3 minus 3 0? Yes, it is. 0 equals 0. Hooray. Okay, so that's the gist of today. Not so bad. Okay, number 4. Subtract 15. Remember, you should not be squaring until you have no other choice. Start with the easy stuff, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Do the easy stuff first. Radical y is equal to 7. Square both sides, and y equals 49. And again, you would do a check. I'm not. So, for number 5, I mean, it is a negative radical. I could move it. I mean, you don't have to. If you don't want to move the radical c and then move the 1 over, you could just minus the 1. But now be very, very careful. When you rewrite it, it's not radical c. It's still a negative radical c equals negative 2. Now, how do you get rid of it? What's like in front of that radical c? It's a negative, but it's like a negative 1. So just divide both sides by negative 1. Now we have radical c equals 2. Square both sides, and c equals 4. Okay. For 6, again, you should not be squaring unless you have no other choice. So I'm not going to square it because there are easier things I can do first. So let's add the 18 first. Again, this was just like in the beginning of the year when we solved two-step equations. The only difference is now there's radicals in there, but it's not that much harder. So 3 radical y is equal to a positive 15. Again, there's a 3 outside. Why don't we divide by 3 first? You get radical y equals 5. Is y alone yet? No, there's a radical. So square both sides. Y equals 25. And again, if you plugged it back into 6, just verbally, square root of 25 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 minus 18 is a -3, so we did it right. Number 7. Again, subtract the 5 first. You get 2 radical q is equal to 6. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Q is equal, square root of q, that would have been bad, is 3. Square both sides, and I know it's getting messy. The stylus used to be good. Now my handwriting is getting worse. Q equals 9. And again, let's just say it verbally. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11, so we know we did it right. Okay, number 8 is where we start to change up the order. So again, if it's outside, do that first. Okay, so I know this trick is going to sound really stupid, but picture like you're the big bad wolf. You're trying to go after piggies. So if you, again, this trick is so dumb, but if you see piggies running outside, so 5 is a piggy, you see it's outside, attack the piggies that are outside first. So let's subtract 5, and you get square root of a minus 3 is equal to 4. Now, this is where kids do it, and this is why I do that stupid trick of the piggies and the big bad wolf. You want that 3, but are you allowed to do this? No. No. You cannot just start adding from things. It's in a house. So what does the big bad wolf need to do? Yes, it needs to blow down the house. Well, blowing down the house in math is just squaring it. So if you want that -3, you have to square first. So notice how this one, we didn't square as our final step. That's why I haven't been saying it's always going to be the last step. It's not. You do everything else until you have no other choice but to square. Because again, if it's inside the house, you can't attack it until the house is gone. And the way we get rid of the house is squaring. So now we're left with a minus 3 is equal to 16. And then your final step is actually adding the 3, which is 19. And again, why don't we do it verbally to see? You know what? I'll do the check for real for this one, just so we can see it. So the check, square root of, instead of 8 is 19 minus 3 plus 5, actually 9. Well, 19 minus 3 is 16. Plus 5, does that equal 9? The square root of 16 is 4. Does 4 plus 5 equal 9? Yes, it does. 9 equals 9. So we know we did it right. Okay. Do you see any piggies that are outside? Yes, I see the -5. So add the 5 first. You get the square root of b plus 7 is equal to 3. Now, are you allowed to subtract the 7? No, because it's inside the radical. It's inside the house. So we got to blow down the house now. So square both sides. B plus 7 is equal to 9. Now that piggy is exposed, attack the piggy. -7, and you get b equals 2. And again, if you plug it back in, you get 2 plus 7 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 minus 5 is -2. Okay, so number 10, what piggy is outside of the house? Yes, the 2. Well, if we're multiplying by 2, we got to divide by 2. Again, attack the piggies that are outside first. And again, piggy is not a mathematical word, so never write that in an explanation. Oh, yeah, there's a pig outside. Yeah, don't write that. Okay, so we divided by 2. Now, is there anything else I can do? Not unless we attack the house. So let's attack the house now. So that's when you know. When there's nothing else outside to attack, that's when then you attack the house. So x plus 4 equals 64 minus 4, and you get x equals 60. And let's see if that was right. 60 plus 4 is 64. Square root of 64 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16, so we did it right. And again, that's a 0. Okay, the next one. What piggy is outside? The 5. So let's divide by 5. You get the square root of y minus 2 is equal to 2. Again, is there anything we can do other than attacking the house? No. So then attack the house. Y minus 2 equals 4. Add 2. You get y equals 6. Okay, the next one. Let's subtract the 7 first because that piggy is outside to attack. x plus 4 is equal to 4. There's nothing else to do other than attack the house, so let's attack the house. X plus 4 equals 16. Subtract 4, and you get x equals 12. Okay, let's see if we were right. 12 plus 4 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 plus 7 is 11. We did it right. Okay, now, here's an interesting case. The last two cases that are kind of interesting. So, for 13, what should you do first? Well, the interesting thing is, all I see are piggies inside houses. So if there's nothing else I can tack on the outside, guess what? You attack the houses first. So you're just going to square both sides. So what does that do? That just gets rid of the houses. Okay. So here we go. This is literally September math now. Now that we got rid of the houses. Which side has less x's? The right. So subtract the x here. And if you're good at it, you could say, well, if I'm moving the x's to this side, let's move the remaining numbers to that side. So there goes that, there goes that. What am I left with? X equals 5. And you know what? Why don't I do the check for this one just so we can make sure. Now, the check is not as obvious for this one, just because we don't know what it should equal. We actually have to solve both sides to know if they're the same. So 2 times 5 minus 1. Does that equal 5 plus 4, square root of 5 plus 4. So you get the square root of 9 on this side, you get the square root of 9 on that side, so you know they're going to be the same. And yes, 3 equals 3, so it's the same. 14, again, is there anything else I can do other than squaring? No, so we square. And when you do that, you get n equals 5n minus 1, so the houses disappeared, the radicals are gone. Now in this case, there's only an n on that side, so make my life easier. I'm just going to move the 5n to this side. It will become negative, but whatever. So you get negative 4n equals negative 1. Again, what number is next to the n? Negative 4. So when you do that, you either get n equals 1/4. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you either get that, or you can write it as 0.25. Either one is fine. Okay, last two questions. Again, I told you this lesson wasn't so bad. It's also kind of short, which is nice. Again, nothing to attack on the outside. Let's attack the houses. When you do that, you get 3x plus 1 is equal to 4x minus 7. Which side has less x's? This side. So let's move the 3x. If I'm going to do that, I better move the 7 over then. So what am I left with? I'm left with 8 equals x. Oh, that was easy. Okay, let's do a check for this one, just to prove that that was actually right. Square root of 3 times 8 plus 1. Does that equal 4 times 8 minus 7? Well, when you do that, you get the square root of 25 equals the square root of 25. And when you do that, does 5 equal 5? Yes, it does. Hooray! Okay. Now, it says the perimeter is 22. Well, how do we find perimeter? Again, we add up all the sides. So you have two options. You could just literally fill in the remaining sides and then add them all. I think the easiest way of saying there's 2 of this side and there's 2 of that side. So here we go. 2 times one side, which is this, plus 2 times the other side, which is that, and the perimeter is 22. So now, you know what? I forgot to mention this before, and I'm hoping this is, you are not allowed to distribute that 2 inside a radical. The only time you are ever allowed to distribute is if it's parentheses, and not only if it's parentheses, but if there's also no exponent or anything else. If there's an exponent, you are not allowed to distribute. Definitely not. If there's a radical, the same rules apply. You are not allowed to distribute. Again, the only time you can distribute if it's parentheses and there's nothing else touching it. So you can't distribute it, so let's just rewrite it. Okay, 6x minus 5. Again, I could have just done 2 times 4 is 8 from the beginning, but we'll do it in one step. Okay, attack the piggies that are outside. Let's subtract the 8 first. You get 2 radicals, 6x minus 5 is equal to 14. Is there any other piggies? Yes, there's a 2 still outside, so let's attack that. Square root of 6x minus 5 is equal to 7. Now that there's nothing else I can attack outside, now we got to get rid of the house. So square both sides. You get 6x minus 5 is equal to 49. And you add 5, you add 5. You get 6x equals 54. Divide by 6, divide by 6. And x is 9. And let's see if that was correct. When you plug in 9 back into here, 6 times 9 is 54. 54 minus 5 is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. So if this is 7, that's 7. If this is 4, that's 4. When you add it up, it is 22. So we did it right. And there's your lesson. Not so bad. Okay, it's been a pleasure. The next lesson is definitely not one of my favorites, and it's really bizarre, but we got it next time. It's been fun. Once again, this is Mr. Morrow signing out to all my followers. Bye, guys.